Welcome everyone to this episode of the Mortgages by Gretchen show, where I talk to real people in the field of real estate and business who are not only experts, but they're very generous and willing to share their time and knowledge and expertise with us. And the goal of the show is for you to gain some information and tips about working towards your goals in real estate and business, and to take the guesswork out of what to do or who to call when you need some help. And today I'm thrilled to have Katie Deering with me. And Katie's work provides peace of mind, and her mission is to help clients achieve financial security. Katie's been working in the financial services and insurance industry since 2012. Since starting with the cooperators, she's obtained her general insurance, life, and mutual fund licenses. She holds her qualified associate financial planning and chartered life underwriter designations, and is working towards her CFP. She has worked with parents of disabled children, assisting with estate planning to avoid impacting their child's rights to assistance, and family business owners with complex succession plans. And I first met Katie in April of 2020 at my Women's Financial Empowerment event. And that was just a couple weeks before the COVID shutdowns. So I have interesting memories of that event. And I'm really grateful that Katie and I are connecting, and she's going to tell us first a little bit more about herself.
Well, thanks for inviting me on your show, Gretchen. I really don't have anything more to add to that professional bio that you just gave me, but a little bit about me personally is after I met you at the financial event, I had just taken over for cooperators. My mom had retired, so I took over her agency. And about a year later, I found out I was pregnant, so I was off for a year, and I'm just coming back now. So in that time, I've been working on those 2 designations that you just mentioned, and I write my next one in about 6 weeks. So always got my nose in a book for that.
Good luck.
Thank you. It should be good.
Good.
I'm very hopeful.
Okay, well, you want to provide peace of mind and financial security to people, and I know from talking to you that you're very passionate about it. You're very authentic and caring. Where does that come from?
Well, I was raised by financial advisors, so that definitely influenced me for sure. I had someone to set a good example for me while I was growing up, and I find that so critical to financial literacy because you tend to emulate what your parents do in a lot of aspects. And they don't teach financial literacy in schools. So it's really something you learn at home or by seeking it out on your own. It's becoming more and more important every single year. They now use credit score to influence your interest rate on loans when it comes to homes and mortgages. It's even a factor in home insurance nowadays. And the reasoning they have behind that is they have statistically found if you have poor credit, you don't take care of your property as much as you should. And it leads to either more claims, more frequent claims, or padded claims. So they started using that as a rating factor several years ago, industry-wide. We were one of the last to adopt it, but if you don't follow some of those industry things, then you end up getting anti-selected against. So anyway,
Okay.
Yeah, and growing up, I did have great examples. We had a renter living in the basement for a lot of my childhood, and now that I'm grown up myself, I am following that same path. I have a rental in my basement, so it's certainly helped me make sure my mortgage payments get paid.
Okay, and something about that, just so I don't forget, you mentioned to me offline earlier about you have a separate entrance, but you mentioned you have a friend who's got doesn't have a separate entrance, and I guess something that could be useful that you mentioned about if you're renting a room.
Yeah, so I rent my basement on Airbnb and other short-term rental sites. And it is helpful that I do have the separate entrance. My friend in Montreal, he's got an apartment there. And we all know rent prices are going crazy this day and age. So he on occasion will rent his second bedroom, and that helps him meet his monthly cash flow goals. So it can be a very lucrative side hustle.
Okay, and you also mentioned that there is ability to screen in case you're concerned about safety, if you're a female, or
Uh,
about
Absolutely. So when you set up your Airbnb listing or whatever the platform may be, you can either have instant book on or off. If you are sharing your space, then I'd recommend instant book being off. That way you can vet any potential guests and ensure that you're going to be comfortable on both sides.
Okay, that's good to know.
Absolutely.
You recently mentioned to me some tools that you can provide to help small business grow investments tax-free, and that's of great interest to a lot of people. So how does that work, and what are the benefits?
The advice is individual to each business owner because every business is different and the needs for the business owner are as well. But some good general advice is make sure you have a good financial planner and a good accountant that can help you navigate the tax code and optimize your position as best as you possibly can. You should be paying yourself a mixture of salary and dividends. The salary, you want to maximize your yearly pensionable earnings, and that allows you to pay enough into CPP that you can receive the max when you do eventually retire. Over and above that yearly pensionable maximum, you would probably want to pay out as dividends because dividends have preferential tax treatment as well, and they're not taxed at the same rate as income. So the other thing I would mention is if you're retaining earnings in your corporation, you'd want to put that to work for you. So you can invest those, and you can invest those in multiple different investment types. But if you start making more than 50,000 in passive income in your corporation, it really starts to affect your small business deduction, which will raise your tax rate on that income. Once you hit 150,000 in passive income, your small business deduction is entirely gone, and that can more than double how much you're paying to the government in taxes. So some solutions to that problem are having a whole life plan. Money you put into a whole life insurance plan gets added to, there's an insurance component and there's an investment component, but the money invested in there is not considered passive income. So it separates it out from your other investments. And once you build up a healthy reserve of cash values, you can start borrowing against the policy. When you take a loan from your policy, it is not a taxable event. The loan does accumulate over time, but it never exceeds what the death benefit on the policy is going to be if it's structured properly. So the idea is when you do finally pass away, the life insurance pays off the loan and any remainder flows through what we call the capital dividend account, which can then be paid out to your estate essentially. So you're avoiding taxes and on multiple steps along the way. The other option, well, the other side of that is when you do have those other things that need to be invested, there are what's called corporate class funds where you can, when you take a disbursement from there, it can be a combination of your capital and interest. So the interest is the only part that's coming in as passive income because it's a return of your own capital. So if you structure it properly, you're paying a lot less in taxes.
Okay, very, very important.
Absolutely.
And another thing too about
Yeah.
just cash flow, you had previously, again, off the side, mentioned me about you have a couple of people that you know who are doing some side gigs that are worth mentioning of other ways to just bring in more income if you're having challenges with your monthly cash flow.
Absolutely. So if you're having challenges with your monthly cash flow, first, you definitely need to look at your budget and figure out where your money's going. Once you do that, you can see if you're spending too much in any one area. I know in my younger days, I'd go out to lunch constantly, and it would add up to hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. Whereas I really should be going to a grocery store and bringing that brown bag at least most of the time, right? So budget first, figure out where you can trim. After that, if there's nowhere else you can trim and you're still having cash flow problems, then you need to figure out how to earn more money. So that can be starting with your employer, asking for a raise. Sometimes you need to change jobs in order to get that raise. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And I think a lot of employers need to realize that, because it's a lot harder to attract new and good talent than it is to retain someone who is doing a good job for you. You also need to, you can also work on creating multiple income streams. That's what I've done with my Airbnb. It's my second income. And as a single person, that is very, very helpful. I also have a employee who drives for Uber on the weekends, and he's making an extra 20 to 30 grand a year by doing that. So that has helped his family significantly. Another employee of mine also has a rental in their home. She's doing it traditional renting, so she's got a lot less headache than the Airbnb. So that's great for her. And your side hustle can be absolutely anything. One of my best friends buys pumpkins and mums at the end of the season and makes Thanksgiving arrangements. So she gets a really, really good deal on those from the farms and the garden center, clearing them all out, and makes a tidy profit on that. So it's been very great for her. It allows them to take a family vacation every year. So it's amazing.
So that's a lot, right? You don't realize how quickly it can add up to do something like that.
Absolutely. And really, it takes them, 1 week a year?
Yeah. Wow. That's good.
Absolutely.
In regards to the estate planning, what would you say are the common mistakes that you can help with?
Well, first and foremost, the biggest mistake I generally see is not having an estate plan or not having a will. Because if you don't have a will, the government dictates how your estate is going to be distributed. And you don't want that. You would much rather have it to be your own choices than what the government says. Your whole estate would have to be probated if it goes through the government. Whereas if you have your own will, you can dictate where things go. You can also avoid probate on a lot of investment products legally by naming a beneficiary. Life insurance flows outside of estate and probate, as long as there's a named preferred beneficiary on the life insurance. Another mistake I see quite often is not naming your spouse as a succession holder on your TFSA and just putting them as a beneficiary. If you put them as a beneficiary, then it gets kicked out of that tax-free savings account, and then it has to be invested or whatever by the survivor. Whereas if you name them as a succession holder, it rolls over to them and can stay in that tax-free account. So for an example, let's say a husband and wife both have maxed out tax-free savings accounts. That's 80,000 contributed as of this year if they were of age when the product was introduced. So if they have each other named as a succession holder, that 80,000 will flow to the survivor, staying in the tax-free savings account, and now that person has 160,000 that can grow tax-free until they need to take it out. So that can be a huge, huge advantage over doing it as a beneficiary, because in that same scenario, then that person has to take it in cash. And if they take it in cash and they don't have any room, they have to either A, put it in an RRSP, which this is already tax-free money, and an RRSP reduces your income taxes payable. So it's not always the best solution for a lump sum like that. Or they have to put it in non-registered, where they have to pay taxes on the growth every single year. So definitely name a succession holder.
I think that's very important.
Absolutely. One other estate thing I want to mention too is if you have a disabled child, it's very important to structure your estate appropriately. If you don't, you can remove their eligibility for government assistance, which is very, very important if they're unable to work. So the tools that you would use there are a registered disability savings plan. Those also have up to $90,000 you can get from the government in matching contributions and in bonds. So that's free money. Who says no to free money, right?
Yeah.
And the other one is called a Henson Trust or a Qualified Disability Trust, which essentially means they don't technically own the asset, so it doesn't affect their assistance.
And does that apply? And I'm not very knowledgeable on this, but I know some people who have children with autism. Does that also, is that considered a disability and covered by those sorts of things as well?
So the eligibility for a registered disability savings plan, it does frequently cover autism. My best friend has a autistic child, and I just recently set up one for her. So the qualification is you need to be receiving the disability tax credit. And to get the disability tax credit, you have to have a medical doctor certify and fill out the forms that you are significantly impaired in one of the categories that they have for that. So as long as you qualify for the disability tax credit, you do qualify for these tools and solutions.
Okay, that's really good to know.
I would love to help out your friends.
Okay, yes, I'm gonna be telling them. Give you a call.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yes, and
That'd be
so
great.
speaking of which, how do people reach you?
You can reach me on the phone. My phone number is 905-438-8200. That goes to my office, which is located in Curtis, right on King and pretty close to Curtis Road. Also, my email is katie_deering@cooperators.ca. And there's no hyphen in cooperators.
Okay, and are you on Instagram, LinkedIn?
I am. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it. I've been working on it
Okay,
since
well,
I started back up.
Media when I post
That
it.
would be great. I would love that.
Okay, cool. Okay, what would your last piece of advice be for Canadians right now?
My last piece of advice would be make sure you're taking care of problems as soon as you can, because ignoring them does not make them go away. They compound and they become more difficult to deal with, not less. One of the things I'm studying in my CFP program is the psychology and issues around money that people have. And one of the, I'm going to call it an illness. One of the financial illnesses people have is called financial denial. So if they think if they ignore it, it's just going to go away and resolve itself. We all know that's not going to happen.
I didn't know it actually had a name.
Oh, it does. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I equate it to needing to go to a doctor for a health issue. If you have a health issue, you want to exercise, you make healthy diet choices, and you ask a doctor, hey, doc, how do I improve where I need to be? Financials are the same. If you have a financial problem, talk to a professional. I got to cough. 1 sec.
No problem.
Okay, that's better. Talk to a professional, exercise your budget, and make sure you're making healthy financial choices.